Today is Tuesday, August 8th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Shalau of Is Was Brewing, and zooming in from, was it Cowabunga, New York, is your other co-host, Chris Quinn from the Beer Temple. Chris, how's it going?
What's up? How are you? You're freaking out. You were looking at me from my webcam. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, something popped up on the Zoom screen saying about professional audio settings, so I was like, what is that? So I'm going to close that. So
it looked to me just like seen in RoboCop when he's first brought back to life, and there's just people staring right at him, and he doesn't know what's going on. So I had the feeling that something terrible is happening, but I'm glad it was just a notice screen. So yeah, I'm doing well. How are you, Mike?
Good. I'm good. It's our busy time. And I'm going out of town on Thursday, so I'm trying to jam 5 days of work into 3 days. And I went to a White Sox-Yankees game where the Yankees left 12 runners on base, a game after leaving 15 runners on base. So I ended up more inebriated than I was planning on to drown my sorrows. And so the work was not as efficient today as it should have been, but here we are.
It's okay.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah, it's it. They're terrible this year. It's fine. I'm not upset about it. You just kind of.
And the Fade Master, he's doing well. I can't see him, but I think he's doing okay.
He's nodding enthusiastically.
Okay.
That's not. What was that?
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, it tracks. We actually we got to meet the Fade Master's dogs and wife. After the last recording when we were out in Downers Grove.
Yeah.
Beautiful home, beautiful wife, beautiful dogs. It was what a wonderful time. And now I'm someone who does not love greyhounds necessarily, but I loved your greyhounds and whippets. Greyhound and whippets. They seem too fragile.
I'm just happy that fading is you can earn a decent living nowadays, and you can get yourself a house in the suburbs.
That's right.
On being a Fade Master these days, so
yeah,
I'm just happy for him.
A one-income family of only Fade mastering. Fade mastering.
Okay. Exactly. All right, so let's move on.
Yeah. Just want to thank everyone for listening, everyone on WLPN and on whatever podcast platform. And however else you might listen to this, I don't know, maybe you downloaded the audio from a friend on a zip drive. Thanks to those people too. And we have a fun show, something we've never really done before, I guess. It's Chris is flipping me off now. I guess doesn't like thumb drives. But we're going to talk about, we've got some heavy hitters here to talk about what it's like owning a beer bar over the last rise and fall of craft beer. So would you guys like to, in order of seniority, I don't know who's more senior in this group.
I think Mr. Berger has to start first.
Yeah,
because the order of seniority is how many times you've been on the show.
Right.
So
if it's any other metric, then it would be
number of awards.
It would be the other guest chair by any other metric. It would be the other guest chair. So, but the only thing I surpass him in is being on this show.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. So we got Mr. Pat Berger of Max and Izzy's and Kaiser Tiger. And
that's right. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah. How you
doing?
Been
a while.
What's new?
Just everything, nothing. Just getting by, and business is getting back to normal, which is nice. And
Good.
yeah, we're just cruising along, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Cruising along is something I like to hear.
Yeah.
The other guest on our panel today owns the bar that I got engaged at and that I met my fiance at, and that is one of the finest craft beer establishments I've seen anywhere in the world. Mr. Mike Roper of Hopleaf. How you doing, Mike?
Good. That's quite good.
Yeah. What's new with you?
Well, it's been kind of an action-packed summer. You know, I in the spring I went to Washington D.C. for the big Belgian event there, where all the Belgian brewers came to D.C. and had this event at the Belgian ambassador's mansion.
Cool.
And they had 4 days of events all over D.C. at every bar that even considered carrying a Belgian beer. I was just in the East Coast a couple weeks ago. I went to a brewery I've been really anxious to go to for a long time, and that's Notch Brewing.
Oh, nice. In Salem? Which one?
Yeah, in Salem. It's really
Cool.
it's a really cool brewery. Their
Yeah.
beer is very good. I was supposed to meet with Chris Loring, the owner, and I didn't because my plane got so delayed that our appointment did not happen.
That's too bad.
But I will definitely go back because it's quite good.
I feel like they don't get enough credit for being way out in the forefront of the kind of lager and culture around lager being a focus of a craft brewery.
And very Czech.
Right.
They're, you know, very Czech oriented. And,
Yeah.
you know, they're doing the thing like the those Pilsner Kel bars where they, you know, gravity pour with the, you know, the side.
Right.
Chris's favorite side pull.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Human Robot does that too with the gravity pour and the Luker,
Yep.
kind of side pour.
Yeah, it was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I think we're
Did you have any of the beer that they
Yeah.
lager in pitch lined barrels?
No,
Yeah,
they didn't have anything.
I want to try that. It
I
seems
tried.
fun.
I tried almost everything they had on tap, which was a challenge. But I was with a few other people, so we could kind of pass the glass around, and which we do now that the pandemic has waned a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not in terror of that anymore.
Right, we're back.
We're also getting ready to. I hired a videographer, and we're doing an event for the Beer Culture Summit in which we are making probably a 30 or 40 minute film about scratch brewing.
Oh, cool.
And so we're going down there at the end of the month for 3 or 4 days. We're going to be there for Brew Day. We're also going to go and forage in the woods for ingredients and film it all. And it should be kind of cool.
Awesome.
And then we'll show the movie during the Beer Culture Summit.
Oh, cool. When is the Beer Culture Summit?
It is in November, I think. I'm trying to think. No, it's in the end of October.
Cool.
I don't have the exact dates in front of me, but Liz Garibay is organizing the whole thing again.
Nice.
And we'll be happy to show this and maybe introduce some other people to this microscopic brewery down there.
This show is notoriously a big homer for Scratch. I think it's Chris's favorite brewery in the world.
I was there last weekend. I will also say, Pat, that's how you answer the question, what have you been up to lately? By the way.
I told you he's better than me at everything. I mean, answering your question, what's going on? Really insightful question too, Chris. By the way, it's really,
Well, it's
way
only
to pull out.
I didn't ask it. I didn't ask
we're a
it.
big gotcha journalism kind of
Yeah,
podcast.
way to pull the answers
We're trying to
out
make
of it.
everyone look bad that comes on.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. That's great to hear about Scratch. Can't wait to see it. We did a mini version of that type thing. I was there for a couple days. Geez, how long ago was that, Shalal?
A long time
Remember?
ago. It's got to be
You've
like 10.
probably
It's gotta be
seen
like,
it more than anyone else.
yeah, it's got to be like 10 years, right?
Yeah, like 10 years ago or something. Went down there and filmed them and foraged with them and stuff like that.
I mean,
and
you were
it
still
would
wearing.
be nice to have someone who knew what they were doing.
I mean, you were still
Yeah.
wearing mostly khakis, and you're like tucking in your iron shirts. So it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, it
to
was a long time ago.
I should know the dates, but Beer Culture Summit is the October 18th through 21st.
Cool.
And then on the 23rd, Hopleaf is sponsoring a screening at the Gene Siskel Film Center of Bottle Conditioned, the movie about lambics.
Cool.
And we're going to do a lambic tasting after the screening.
Wow.
With Dry Fontainen.
Very cool.
So that's another thing coming up.
That's amazing.
We're going to have to go to that. Well, that's
going to be cool.
The idea of today's show is to kind of get some venerable Chicago publicans together to have a discussion about what it's like owning on-premise places that have some sort of focus on craft beer and why it exists and what you sell.
Mm-hmm. Can I, Mike?
Yeah.
Mike, would you mind if I came in with a little bit of an icebreaker question? Because it's something that it isn't necessarily in line with what we were going to discuss, but it's something that just happened, and I think we've got enough people who tend to have opinions that I'm just curious what you guys think about the AB InBev divestment that just happened recently. I don't know, Mike. I mean, even you and I haven't really talked about this much, but I was just curious if you even have the names of the breweries that I have it right here. So
you brought it up, and now you're asking me for the names.
Yeah, I brought it up, so I guess I should probably bring it up. So Tilray bought a whole bunch of brands from AB InBev. Tilray is it mostly like a cannabis firm?
Yep, it is.
And they have Sweetwater and Green Flash, and they just took over or bought the rights a bunch of brands from AB InBev, including 10 Barrel, Red Hook. That's been a brand. Widmer has been an AB brand forever. Shock Top, an original AB brand. I think the only one on the list that I think is an original AB brand. Breckenridge, Blue Point, a cider company, and maybe a few more. Just curious what you guys thought about it. I have a couple ideas, but I was very interested what the three of you thought about it, if much at all. Just because it's a big deal when they're kind of divesting brands rather than kind of acquiring, which has been, for the past, 10 years or so, it's all been about people kind of acquiring brands. But now we have, Sapporo. Well, they didn't really divest; they just kind of shut down, and now we have AB. What do you guys think of that?
I'm not surprised. I mean, especially, Red Hook was the first one to fall, actually, because that one sold very, very early to AB, and then Widmer Brothers not long afterwards. And those actually were pioneering good breweries that made good beer and were kind of ahead of their time. And under the AB umbrella, they kind of lost their legitimacy and also kind of, faded away. If you remember correctly, that when AB bought Goose Island, they didn't buy Goose Island directly. Goose Island was purchased by Widmer Brothers.
Oh,
right.
And then Widmer Brothers was already owned by AB.
Because they were part of that CBA, like the Craft Brewers Alliance
Yep.
or whatever it was.
Exactly.
And I think that they were trying to use Widmer Brothers to sort of maybe shield them a little bit from the connection with AB InBev.
I don't know if that worked.
It didn't work at all. But, I don't think all the brands listed don't really mean anything anymore.
Right.
I think that it probably cost more to maintain a distribution network for them than it's worth. I also think that the bud wholesalers around the country probably take those brands reluctantly and probably really, do we have to carry Red Hook in Pennsylvania? Nobody buys it, And so it's not that big a deal. If they got any money from them with this sale, it's better than where they were at before. And I don't think it'll be the last. I'm wondering if they will shed some of their European brands, and they own brands in Africa and Asia that also don't mean much anymore. And it maybe makes sense for them to streamline and stick with what really means anything to them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that, and the biggest players will always follow the money, and the money is not in those craft beer brands anymore. It was when they bought them. It isn't anymore, and it's kind of a symptom of where craft beer maybe is, whatever craft beer is. I don't even know anymore, but it's a symptom of the current climate for these brands, and if they're not interested in them anymore, chances are neither are we.
Right. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, Mike. Go for
I don't
it.
really remember the full list, but I can't think of any of those that I've even really seen anywhere that I would think to buy them. Certainly we're a very specific demographic that's not the normal beer consumer across,
It sounds like Goose Island survived the purge for now, right?
Right.
They have.
Yeah. Yep.
So maybe they're like, look, we'll take our top 5 sellers of this category and we'll keep them and we'll dump the rest. And
I think also the difference between Breckenridge and Widmer Brothers and Red Hook and the rest of them compared to Goose Island is that they've made Goose Island a global brand. You can buy Goose Island in Japan. You can buy it all over Europe. Right. Yep. They open pubs all over the
Shanghai,
world. Yeah,
London.
I mean, so they made a conscious decision that of all these brands, there's one that we are going to make a global AB brand.
Right.
They couldn't
the
all
crown
do it.
Jewel.
Yeah.
It's their crown jewel of their craft portfolio was Goose Island.
And I think it's doing really well for them. It's doing great probably everywhere except in Chicago, but it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of their MO in general, right, is to streamline stuff and just end up with less products that they can push more of. It's a more efficient way of operating a company, I guess, especially at scale like that.
Yeah. I think we're kind of that's what I thought too. I was just curious what you guys had to say about it, but I think to me it's probably not that far away from the plan that they had always had, even when they acquired some of these. I mean, they've had Red Hook and Widmer for so long, but some of the other ones, Blue Point, and I would even put Goose there. They were probably like buy a bunch, see which ones take hold, and either just sink, or if the brand's worth anything, sell them. If they're not worth anything, just kill them. But to me, it's more interesting because I think it's a very kind of natural thing that AB would want to do. Is if their push on craft is shrinking, they're only going to be using, like you were saying, maybe their top 5. And I'm guessing you just pulled that number out of the air, which is what I'm doing now. But it's like, we're just going to focus on a few of them.
Nothing I say is based in any real statistics or fact. Yeah. Come on.
Well, I love you. Hot takes, baby. But it makes sense. But I'm just curious if it's going to be if other people in the industry are maybe going to take it for more than that and think that this is, especially coming so soon after the Anchor news, that this is going to be more kind of Chicken Little. And I do think things are definitely slowing down and things are not what they were, but the timing of it was interesting, and I'm curious if we'll start to see some kind of mainstream articles about how the big guys are getting away from craft, and if that itself will have any effects on it, because I could potentially see that happening, even though I think what Budweiser was doing was, not very surprising or in and of itself. interesting to me. But outside of it, I could see it having some effect.
Don't you think that AB, by selling now, though, is like they're getting as much as they're ever going to get? The value of those brands is just going to keep going down. Selling now makes worse. Selling 5 years from now, they may have no value at all. And they've milked whatever they're going to get out of those brands. They probably didn't pay very much for them to begin with. I mean, remember, of all those brands, I think the last one they bought was Goose Island, and they only paid $88 million for that, which sounds like a lot of money, but it's not.
That's not really the last. I mean, that was one of the first.
And 10 Barrel, and
every one of those came later, and they all got more money than Goose Island did. Goose Island, in the end, didn't get as much as I think they could have it had they waited 4 or 5 years. But the rest of those guys made out like bandits, and them shedding these brands is more like getting it off their books. I mean, I don't think they get anything in 5 years. I don't think they got anything now. I mean, there isn't a bunch of viability for these brands, but this has been going on forever and ever, and there's brands out there that people own that aren't produced and then come back. Like sometimes they give it a shot. Narragansett Lager, someone owns that, right? And they every once in a while they throw that out in the market, see if it sticks. And that's what these brands are now. That's all they are.
They actually bought breweries, and they did own. I mean, Widmer and Red Hook they bought before Goose Island, but
I don't think they sold those breweries. Everything in the article I read was a brand.
So they didn't sell. You mean they didn't sell the production facilities? They sold just the brands.
And I wonder what those. I wonder,
Chris, do you know if that's what the case is there? I don't think any actual buildings or equipment or production facilities changed hands on this. Do you know?
That's well. I mean, I know Widmer had been kind of shutting some of that stuff down. I kind of thought. I mean, I would think maybe the opposite. I would think that they had done that, but probably something pretty easy that we could look into.
Yeah, we should probably know that.
This show. if I had been a little bit more on the ball.
If you're listening, Google it. Let us know.
Yeah. You're on vacation. Come on.
Come on.
I think there was also a while where their strategy was to like pick up these kind of regional breweries all throughout the country and kind of fill up the distribution chain with their like regional craft beer. And they've been relatively effective at making Goose Island a national craft brand at this point, where they don't need 10
worldwide.
Yeah. And so like when that wasn't really catching, like shortly after they bought it, when it was actually going down, and sometimes their strategy became to get like, I think it's like Devil's Backbone or something. They got 10 Barrel in the Pacific Northwest. The Golden Road in California. They got so they covered their territory, and as they've become more effective at not needing the geography of those anymore, they can just let them go.
And they're just not that good at running those companies.
Right.
I mean, and
it's not what they do.
And and what they do is sell, Busch Light and Bud and stuff, and that they do pretty well. And they also remember that while they don't own the brewery, they have the U.S. distribution rights for Modelo, which is the king of the hill right now. I mean, that brand is just exploding.
Right. And
they actually own the brewery. The U.S. distribution rights are Constellation.
Oh, you're right.
So it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Right.
So all these people switching to Modelo because they think Bud Light's a tranny beer or whatever it is they're saying.
Right.
Like, guess what? Money's going in the same coffer.
Right.
Right. It's the opposite of what I said.
But I mean, I find it hilarious that we don't even know the details of this deal. None of us really care. And 5 years ago, we would have all been all over this. What a big deal. I read this article a couple days ago and didn't realize Green Flash was even still owned by anyone or existed. And I did not know that Sweetwater was bought by a cannabis company. That's how little attention I'm paying to any of this stuff that we would have all lost our
neither of those brands
shit over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I did see the transaction will include current employees, breweries, and associated brew pubs.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
We've been in business for almost 32 years. I've never carried a Red Hook beer. I've never carried a Widmer Brothers beer. I've never carried a Breckenridge beer.
What about Shock Top?
Never carried that. I am not personally invested in this decision.
By the way, Shock Top is theirs. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like they acquired Shock Top. They invented it.
It's like the only successful like pseudo craft brand they ever made,
and they got rid of it.
Yeah. Which I can't. I don't
And
know.
that was just them trying to make Blue Moon. But yeah, so they're going to be owning brew pubs in Portland and Bend and Littleton and
I mean,
New York.
The cannabis company is,
brew pubs.
Are they gonna? Do you think they're gonna keep operating those? I feel like that's a weird move for a cannabis company like that. I feel like this smacks to me of when things get a little less regulated. These slowly transition into production facilities for drinkable cannabis or outlets for selling cannabis. Like this, I can't imagine that cannabis is very fearful of these craft brands cutting into their. It's the other way around.
I think they're all going to be. There's beer companies going into cannabis, and this is the first cannabis company I know going into beer. But I think they see the commodity the same. I do, certainly.
They call themselves a cannabis lifestyle company.
I'm not even sure what that means.
No, I don't know.
Probably went to the great.
I have an idea what it means.
Yeah. It just means that they're trying to be cool and will try to do anything that they think that people who like cannabis will do. I did say the deal was valued at they're saying something around $85 million. So that tells you something.
Wow.
When not too long ago there were breweries selling for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Billions.
For a single brewery alone. I mean, multiples of hundreds of millions. There were a few that went for $1 billion, but 8 brands or however many, including the brew pubs and all the assets, and for $85 million, it says something. It's
simultaneously a surprisingly high and surprisingly low number to me.
Yep.
Where it's like weird. It's weird. Like it's low because there's so many brands in there, and it's high because I don't see value in any of those brands. But but I don't know. Maybe 10 Barrel's killing it somewhere. Not here.
I don't think so.
Well, anyway, sorry. I just thought it was interesting. I just was curious what you folks had to say about that. So sorry if I derailed anything. But
no, we're good.
Can you guys hear the I'm out here and there's actual nature, and I'm actually looking up and seeing stars, which I'm not used to seeing in Chicago.
It's pretty scary.
So.
Are you engaging in cannabis culture currently, Chris?
It's more like a cannabis lifestyle.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle.
Man, I'm out here and there's stars,
I'm not partaking.
dude.
Wow.
Yeah, man. You guys ever looked at your hand? I mean, really look
Why do they call them
it?
fingers? I've never seen them fing.
No, but hopefully the background of nature and actual animals isn't isn't interrupting anybody or disrupting, I should say. I mean, people are used to just people playing Dungeons and Dragons in the background loudly. So hopefully this isn't too
I haven't heard any of it. Has anyone else heard?
No, I don't hear it.
Okay, good.
Okay,
You're good.
Yeah, no, just that
It's
interjection
fine.
about it.
All right,
Okay.
All right, good.
Do you guys want to talk about owning beer bars?
Sure.
Yeah,
Slick
sure.
transition from the co-host. So will you guys let the audience know the bars that you own and kind of when you started them, how and what the idea was when you started them? Why did you start a beer focused place when you did? Whoever wants to jump in.
I feel like Mike should go first because he predates me by a little bit.
So I started working in bars in 1972, long before the craft beer era. But when I started to look around to buy another bar and buy one in Chicago, I had this idea of having it be a beer-focused place. And at that point, a lot of what I was thinking about was imports because there wasn't much craft beer around. I mean, there was Sierra Nevada, there was Anchor, there was Chicago Brewing Company, and Bader Brau, a few things like that. But originally, when we opened in 1992, we had 8 draft lines, which doesn't sound like much now.
Sure.
And we had about 40 different beers in bottles. And we put, like, the brands that we wanted to feature didn't have much in the way of, promotional materials. So I actually went to a neon shop and had neons made for some of the brands that we carried. The first one that I made was the Bell's neon. And I found that when we put those neons in the window, people got really excited, like, oh, here's a bar that's got my favorite beer that nobody else knows about. And we started selling a lot of beer. And we went from 8 draft lines to 12 to 16 to 20, and it just kept growing and growing and growing, and we added more and more space for bottled beer. At one point, we had over 400 beers in bottles.
Wow.
And we definitely will never do that again. But, it was our aim to carry those things exclusively. And in the early days, people would walk in off the street just because it's a bar. And, I want a can of Old Style, and, well, we don't have Old Style. And, I'll have a Bud Light. And it's like, oh, we don't have that either. But we do have,
What would you steer people to that were asking for that?
Well, we used to steer people to Anchor Steam a lot because it was not too weird. We had like Bader Brau was a lager,
Right.
that was pretty acceptable, and a lot of people in Chicago had heard of it because they used to kind of own the street fests back in the early days. So that was another one, how about a Bader?
That owner was a fantastic self-promoter.
He was.
What was his name?
Pavlovich.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we used to, in my college rugby team, we would go out there for our end-of-year season, go to the brewery. By the way, I was like 19. He didn't seem to care. We'd drive out there and get a keg of light, a keg of dark, and bring it back to the party, and he would give us a personal tour every time. It was, we always looked forward to it.
He was a former Chicago cop.
Yep.
And, and I think that brand would have continued to succeed, but he had this really wacky and incredibly foolish idea that he was going to export that brand to Europe. He spent an enormous amount of money filling containers with that beer and sending it to Germany. And it's like, nobody cared about this.
Ice to the Eskimos.
Yeah, it didn't work.
By the way, I think Anheuser-Busch technically owns that brand.
I think they might now,
Yeah, because Goose Island bought it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Because that was one of those ones we talked about that was a brand that someone bought and resurrected in Chicago for a little bit.
Yeah, Goose did.
And then, when it came back in Chicago, Goose was behind that?
Goose brewed it for a while, and then they had that brew pub down the South Loop.
Yeah.
Briefly.
And they had a production facility in, Pilsen, I think.
Oh, well, that's when you're right. So they don't own it anymore because Goose sold that brand to. Oh boy,
I can't
my
remember.
brain doesn't work anymore.
It
now it's Moody Tongue. What was it before that?
Well, that was Bader Brau. I don't know what.
Yeah,
what
but
it was
and they
before
sold
that.
it to the guy though who was producing something up in Wisconsin, and then, anyway, you're right. AB doesn't own that brand anymore.
But that's what we sold, and that's what we would recommend to people. There was that nascent sort of Belgian beer thing going on. A lot of those brands were just entering the market in the 90s. The first Belgian draft beer available in our market was Grimbergen, and we would carry both the Grimbergen Pale and the Grimbergen Dark beer. And then, Chimay came in the market and all these other beers. And we jumped on every one of them, and it worked. I mean, people were very curious then about interesting import brands, interesting, national craft beers. We used to have a neon there was a New Amsterdam, was a New York brewery. There was Dusseldorfer, which I think was out of Cincinnati. A lot of these early craft brands didn't last too long. Yeah. But we did give them a run,
Mm-hmm.
and
I remember going to the Hopleaf for the giant Leffe bottles.
yeah, oh yeah,
We drank you out one night. I recall that.
and Golden Prairie was one of our big brands, and
Yeah.
and then for quite a long time, Celis White was our number one selling beer.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Back when it was still Pierre Celis that owned it, and
Very cool.
that's how we started, and it grew, and we continued to grow. We had every year was better than the year before, from 1992 until 2015. And that was that year when there was the start of that explosion of brewery tap rooms
Right.
that sort of siphoned off a lot of customers from us.
Pat,
Yeah.
you own a couple of drinking establishments?
Yeah, I guess I've been working in a bar or restaurant since I was 13, and just kind of what I always did. I worked at a unique place in St. Louis when I was growing up there that I was talking about earlier with Mike, who, at that point, that was like the craft beer bar. There was no craft beer, but it was just imported beer. Mm-hmm. And my dad was really into beer. He homebrewed like one time, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. And so I started homebrewing in high school. I went to college, and when I got out, had an unemployable degree in archaeology, and went back to the only thing I knew, which was working in a kitchen. And then I realized the bartenders made all the money, and I got behind the bar, and I worked at 3 different breweries. So I kind of saw like this big, the first craft beer boom. I started working in like 95, 96 at a place called River West.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was a disaster. And then went to Wegman Park, which later on became Goose Island Wrigleyville. And then went to Flatlanders, which I think today is a brew pub called Half Day Road Brewing, maybe. And I was just determined to open my own bar. Of course, I wanted to open a brewery, but I was fine opening a bar, and then eventually I did. It was called Patty Long's on Diversey, 2007, and especially in that neighborhood, it was unusual to have even then it was mostly imported beer. I mean, Chicago didn't have all of its breweries yet.
Yeah.
Goose Island, I think, might have been the only brewery I could actually order beer from.
I think 2007 is before Metro opened,
Yep.
or Half Acre. That
Or
was
Revolution,
like right before. Yeah.
yeah. So we had a lot of imported beer, a lot of Belgian beer. I mean, then it was all about Belgian beer. Mm-hmm. And so then I opened Kaiser Tiger in 2014, which was a much bigger place. And while it's incredibly beer focused, we have to do a lot of different things there to fill it up. It's a big place, and I guess that's how I got here. I don't know.
Sure.
And why did I focus on beer? I just really loved beer, man. I mean, I really fucking love beer. I still do, and it's mostly what I drink, and it's an obsession in some ways, I suppose. And I figured as a publican, it was my, I'm mostly selling beer here. I should sell the best beer I can, and I should serve it in the best possible way. That just made sense to me. I should know everything about my draft system. I should know everything about my glassware. I should know, just the proper way to do everything, which I think was a little bit lacking in 2007. So, I think we accomplished a lot of our goals there, and making people aware that beer wasn't, a throwaway beverage, that it did take care and respect to pour the best pints. And obviously now things have shifted intensely, and I'm happy Kaiser Tiger doesn't necessarily rely on beer to fill the place, because I think it's hard now just to say, hey, we're a bar that serves a whole bunch of different beers, and that's the reason you need to come here now. Like, that used to be a reason to go places. I mean, that was, that was a popular concept, and perhaps now it's a little passé, maybe. I don't know.
If I was opening a place today, I probably wouldn't have 62 draft lines.
Sure.
I would still carry good beer,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean as much, to have 50, 60, 100 draft lines.
Right.
That used to be a reason that people would go out of their way to go to a place just because of the number of draft lines that they
It's
had.
kind of like the Yard House and like the Falling Rock had like 100 or something draft lines. And that was like a sign of like, that's a good beer spot.
Yeah.
And things have changed.
Yeah,
And
it's America. More is more. And,
Right.
you got to have, and when people don't necessarily understand the nuances of serving beer, when you say you have 100 drafts, that'll get the general public's attention.
Right.
Without knowing that, hey,
Terrifies me.
98 of them are past their prime,
Right. I wonder if that's like the double-edged sword of consumer education, where that now they know that beer is older. That's not good, and that's not beer I want to drink anymore. That's why the massive number of draft lines, or if it's just simply that there aren't 100 beers that a lot of people actually want to drink.
It's a lot of inventory, I'll tell you that. I mean, Michael will tell you that.
Well, and the reason that, the pandemic, one of the things that allowed us to do is that I sold retail every single bottle of beer that I had in the house.
Oh, wow.
Every single one, just to keep a revenue stream going for a few weeks. But then it allowed me, when we reopened, let's think about what do we need to have in bottles. And so we don't carry no lagers, no pilsners, no IPAs, no APAs, no Helles beers. That stuff is all on draft. So we're down to, we have about 120 beers in bottles. They are mostly lambics, Flemish sour ales, barley wines. I won't bring a beer in the house in a bottle that doesn't have at least a 2-year shelf life anymore.
Yeah. And there's things like that, the natural carbonation in some of those things is essential to what they are. So they don't get the same experience on draft, I would imagine. But
Yeah.
or things that get better in the bottle, like the barley wines.
Right.
Chris, you want to talk a little bit about Beer Temple and how you started and how you transitioned into what the Beer Temple is now and when you started it?
Well, sure. Yeah. Definitely. I think the first, Mike and Pat talking were two different generations, but they're closer to the generation that I am of. They were both well established. Like Patty Young's was like my favorite little gem of a beer bar. I was first getting into it, and the Hopleaf was already, legendary. I'd already heard of it when I moved to Chicago. So I was very much of the maybe boom. There was, the microbrewery boom of the mid 90s, and then there was the craft boom of the aughts or whatever, and that's kind of where I came in. And mine was a second career because I just wasn't happy doing what I was, and I had an office job in a cubicle, and it was, soul sucking, and I guess I needed, stress in my life and stuff like that. So I decided to open up a craft beer store, and it went really well. And I had a decision, which was to open up a second store or to open up a bar. And I remember hearing stuff from you, Michael, and other people about kind of investing in a single space, which I know is a you feel pretty strongly about. And I can't say that was the reason I did it, but these were all things that I was thinking about. And I felt like, man, what do I really wish? Like, what would I aspire to be? And I don't aspire to be the Hopleaf, but I guess I aspire to someday be held in that regard. So I decided to open up a beer bar as well. That was probably like 6 years ago. So we moved and expanded. So it was time for us to expand, and I either could have expanded into a second liquor store or expand into a bar as well. And the road had been pretty paved by the time I opened up the beer bar. So when I opened up the Beer Temple tap room, it's in the era of like tourists opening up and these like just highly, I don't know, how would you even call tourists? Like very specialized, very like intensified places, and didn't necessarily want to do that, but I wanted to kind of elevate as much as could the beer bar experience, while staying away from being too kind of pretentious and fancy pants, because I think that's kind of one of the, I don't know, I just think that's bad for beer. I don't think beer is that. And it's been going well. And then just a couple months ago, we opened up a kitchen, and it's all part of the same thing, kind of just growing within rather than going to a second location. And I don't know if I answered your question, but that's a whole bunch of words I just said. So
yeah,
that's all I got to say.
That was great. That was very sufficient. So over the time that you guys have been, making craft beer a central part of your life and your living, what is the most positive thing you've seen change, and what is one of the most negative changes you've seen in both craft beer and kind of the restaurant bar world that you've experienced? Anyone?
Well, I mean, positively, I think we've elevated the general consensus of beer. It's no almost to its detriment, but we've taken it out of its former sort of category in the liquor, beer, and wine world, and people I think have never been more educated in what beer can be, and so like a lot of those goals originally, I mean, it was all about bringing better beer to the public, and I feel like we accomplished all those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, negatively, I don't know. I mean, look, once the money became stupid, once the ballast points were selling for $1 billion, and it's just, I mean, I'm sure this is true in everything, in every walk of life. But once all the money comes in and you get the bad players, and I don't mean like players who have bad intentions. I mean players who just shouldn't be in this industry and who don't know what they're doing, and who, have this grandiose idea they're going to make, $1 billion like Ballast Point did, and they haven't done their homework. And craft beer now, I mean, we went through this in the 90s, where suddenly, the majority of stuff you were tasting was shit. And we're actually kind of getting out of that now, I think.
But, you had a pretty
4 years ago, everything I was tasting was shit.
I don't know if it was notorious, but it was an influential blog you put up called "I Drink Bad Beer So You Don't Have to." Is that the title of it?
I think it was "I Drink Shitty Beer
So You Don't
Have to."
Sorry.
Yes.
Do you think
that was a long time ago? That blogged 9 years ago.
Yeah, and I think at that time there was a lot more, also like technically flawed and just poorly composed beer in the world.
Yes.
Do you think that's? You said we were coming out of that a little bit, you think? Or
I feel like we are. Like, for the first time in a while, some new players are coming in. Because there is also, now there's a pathway where there wasn't one, where guys who worked at other breweries, like you, Mike, you didn't just open a brewery. You worked at one for a while. You learned the trade before you did it.
Right.
But, in the 90s, people weren't doing that. And then in the 2010s, they weren't doing that either.
Right.
And now you'd be almost stupid to get into the brewing industry.
I would say you,
but if you are that stupid, then you're probably pretty passionate about it.
Right.
You know, you're as stupid as I was to get into it because, you know, when I worked at 3 breweries that all failed because no one gave a shit about craft beer in Chicago in 1997. They just didn't. You couldn't, you know, Mike too, you know, like, you know, he's very successful now. But when I went there in college, I'm sure, Mike, you had some lean months or, you know, lean years, whatever. People didn't care here. You know, we weren't on the prep of, you know, Chicago was the craft beer scene here, as ridiculous as this to say, because of how it is now, was woeful.
Right.
For a very long time. I mean, we didn't have much going on, you know? So I feel like those are the people getting in now, the people who don't care if it's, you know, they're not in it for the money. And that's when you get the best stuff.
Right. I think that's also like somewhat of a return to what made craft beer great in the first place. Was that people that this was not an industry where if you started a brewery, you were going to be a wealthy person or even succeed.
It wasn't even, it was like, how much money can I afford to lose?
Right. Right.
You know?
And that bred better beer because there wasn't this one thing, this one muse of how do we make more money and how do we sell more of these things, how do we get a line.
Well, you know, when there's a gold rush, you just get a bunch of idiots out there, you know, just like the real gold rush, right? You got people who'd never panned for gold in their lives and they're all just flying out there trying to get rich. And that's what happened with craft beer.
Yeah. I think now any new brewery you see now is much smarter in its messaging about what they do, and it's more concise and presented to people as like, I'm trying to do this thing that I don't think is being done in whatever region you're in. Like,
passion projects.
Right.
That's what this industry lacked passion for the last 5-6 years. It's been, you know, how many times have I heard a brewer say, well, I don't like this style of beer, but, you know, I got to pay the bills.
Right.
There's no less passion in a statement I've ever heard in my life. I
mean, honestly, that's why I quit my last job. Not that Pipeworks is anything wrong with the beers they make. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. And I was like, I would rather start this brewery where I make way less money than I did when I worked at Pipeworks and do something that I actually care about and fail at doing it, but at least knowing I tried to do something that I cared about. And no one was making that choice when everything was up and to the right, you know, and you were doubling, tripling your production every year and just raking in money. No one's going to be like, well, I'm going to leave and start this small little passion project, except for crazy people like me, I guess. But I'm glad I did it. I still love the Pipeworks people, and they have cool beers, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. I got in a fight about peanut butter flavoring, and I'm like, I can't do this.
I think that you know what we saw happen in the first few years that we were around is that we slowly normalized better beer. You started, I don't know what the exact date was when you could go into a bowling alley and they had some good beer. You went into a VFW hall and they had some good beer. There was almost no holdouts anymore. There were no little corner bars that didn't carry one acceptable beer.
I mean, you go to a TGI Fridays and get a decent beer.
Yeah, you go to the airport. Or I think on a personal level.
How did that make you feel, Michael? How did that make you feel, Michael, and Pat, when you would see that that everybody had craft beer, we'll say decent beer. I think is a good way to put it. Decent beer.
I think that
How did that make you feel?
I felt that we won. I felt like, I could go to a party, and if I didn't bring any beer myself, chances are there was going to be something there I wanted to drink, and I think that was a good thing because in the early days, good beer was in the good beer ghetto, and it broke out. And there was a time, I'd say in the 90s, I was saying, God, I wish more people would open breweries. Well, I
careful what you wish for. The monkey paw turned on you, that one.
Right. And it did go a little crazy. And I do think that a lot of people opened breweries that were, they read about art. They read some articles in the Wall Street Journal that said like craft beer is the next big thing.
0% failure rate. There was one in literally in the Wall Street Journal about breweries having 0% failure rate over the last 3 years.
So yeah, everybody jumped in this thing, and not all of them made good beer. And in the early days, they didn't even make like drinkable beer. But I think that things are settling down a little bit now, and I do think that I don't think that it's realistic that 10,000 breweries will be viable for the long term. I think there'll be a shakeout coming, but I do think that we have won over a lot of drinkers, and we've normalized craft beer. I don't think it's this weird thing, just like these people who are like really obnoxious to talk about and talk to that drink this fancy schmancy beer.
Bunch of nerds.
These nerdy guys who are intolerant of us working class people who drink Bud Light. I think that we've kind of passed that, and it's just become very normal. And that's a good thing. And I think, Chicago, our metropolitan area, has more breweries than anywhere else in the world now. So we've really succeeded here. Almost every neighborhood in the city and suburbs has a brewery you can walk to. And that's probably a good thing. May not be great for my business, but
well, not every neighborhood needs multiple breweries you can walk to, I think, but I live in one that has multiple, so I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I do think that we won this victory of sorts. I don't think that it was realistic to think that we were going to make the Buds and the Millers and the Coors go away. They're always going to be there. There's always going to be a lot of people that prefer them. They're cheap. They do what they do. But I think that the craft beer revolution won the war,
Yeah. And Chris...
Yeah, and it's interesting to me. I mean... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, the winning the war... sorry, I think I'm on a slight delay. The winning the war has been such an interesting series of events. And the reason I asked before, like, what did it feel like when you saw, good beer everywhere? And I remember thinking, like, wow, this is great. Like, this is what I wanted. And then being like, oh, shit. Like, now people have, like, there's so much more competition. There's so much more. Because I remember having said when I first opened that, that pretty good or good enough was going to be the biggest competition for the beer temple. And I meant it as a liquor store. And liquor stores, I think it happened, just as fast, if not faster, than bars, where they're having really good or pretty good beers. And it became, well, now it's not just other beer bars or specialty beer bars or whatever you want to call it. Now it's, well, okay, now bars are just the competition. And then it did happen with brewers as well, because now, and I think everyone here, including the Fade Master, is very happy that there are so many great breweries across the country and in Illinois. I have to qualify this because whenever I say something, less than glowing about something, everyone thinks that I hate them. That's not, but there's so many now that to me it almost feels like it's like a type of bar now. It's like a concept,
like a genre.
Like, what's your concept? We're we're a genre. We're a Irish bar. Okay, we're a sports bar. What are you? We're a brewery or a tap room.
Yeah.
And it's just like it does kind of feel like that now, where and there's nothing wrong with it, but there are plenty of places. I mean, I'm here in upstate New York, and we went into the Canandaigua town center, and there were, I think, two breweries here. This place is tiny, tiny, and there's two of them here. And I don't think they're going for lots of distributions. I also went to the local liquor store here, and I didn't see either of them. So these are tap rooms. One of them had multiple locations, all in the immediate area. So they had 3 or 4 within, 30 miles or 50 miles of one another. And, it's interesting to me what winning the war has looked like for craft beer, because it does mean, there is more competition. And to me, it's just something that it's just interesting, I guess, what winning looks like. And I'm not saying that in like a sour way. I'm saying it in a good way, but it is, to me, just kind of interest to me what craft beer being more ubiquitous looks like. And I don't know about you guys, because you guys are more seasoned, but is like that how...
I know what you're saying, Chris. Yeah,
picking up, you're like batten down the hatches. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was more on your end where when it became kind of ubiquitous everywhere. First of all, I never saw it as a war, because I understood from I'm from St. Louis. I understood Anheuser-Busch wasn't going anywhere. None of these big guys were going anywhere. There will always be big beer, and that's great. I didn't want to be a part of that, right? Like I was looking for small, independent. World, whatever it was, whether it was beer or bars or restaurants or whatever I was in, that's that's what excited me. So I've never really cared what the big guys did. They didn't really necessarily concern me. But when I started seeing beers that I was serving at 7-Eleven and the airport and stuff, I was like, well, okay. I'm not serving those anymore. I'm sorry. Right, if you can get it there, then how am I, different than the airport bar? So, not to go back to my blog, but then I wrote that blog about Sam Adams, and he, Jim Cook not understanding why a beer bar wouldn't carry his beer, and I was like, look, buddy, you can't have it both ways. You can't be at the 7-Eleven and at the airport bar and be in my bar, because I have to attract customers, and I'm, trying to do a certain kind of thing here. And my customers are not, it's a small niche. I'm part of a small community. I'm part of a small scene that is, trying to uplift other small businesses. So big business, I have no problem with. It just wasn't what, I was doing. And when they got big, they didn't understand why they couldn't be a part of what I was doing. I was like, well, but we're still, we founded this thing. And I'm like, great. Then take your $1 billion and, I'll cry for you not at all, But I'm not, cheapening my brand because you cheapened yours.
Well, I remember when we first started out, for quite a few years, we had a lot of customers from pretty distant suburbs who came all the way. I mean, they drive 30 or 40 miles because that's how far they had to go to find any good beer. So they would come to us. They went to Sheffield's. They went to Patty Long's. They went to the Map Room because there was nothing in Naperville. There was nothing on the North Shore. And now that those communities not only have bars and restaurants that carry good beer, but they all have numerous brewery tap rooms. So we don't get as many of those people anymore. And I know I can't compete with geography. I mean, if you have something that's pretty good and it's a mile from your house, you're not going to drive 30 or 40 miles, especially to drink at the Hopleaf. But what that made me do is to concentrate on being a really good bar, regardless of the fact that we have, a really great beer selection, you also want to go back to what is a neighborhood tavern? Why do people go there? It isn't always because you have a great beer selection. It's about conviviality. It's about service. It's about atmosphere. It's about comfort and welcome and all those kind of things that predate craft beer. They've been part of tavern culture for 1,000 years. You got to get back to that, because if I'm just relying on having 62 beers on tap, that's not enough anymore to ensure my viability, especially when there's like 6 or 7 brewery tap rooms with very close to me, and there's bars with very nice beer selections everywhere. So what do we have to do now is to sort of remember what we liked about going to a bar and what we liked about taverns before there was craft beer. I mean, like I said, I started working in bars in the 70s. We didn't go to bars then because they had, 50 draft beers. There were no bars like that. We went there because of other reasons, and we liked the clientele. We liked the way we were treated. We liked a chatty bartender who cared about us. And I think that what I've noticed now is that when we look at our customers, most of our customers now, they come from our geographical area. That's what keeps us alive. We still get some tourists. Once in a while, we get some people from the suburbs, but we rely much, much more on being like a neighborhood saloon than that has, and it has something to do with the fact we have a nice beer selection, but it has less to do with that than it used to.
That's great. I mean, do you see that as a good thing? Would you rather live in a world where, hey, we have 1 million beers on draft, just come in and we just sling them at you?
I think it's better now.
Yeah.
I think that it forced me to look at that aspect. And when it comes to longevity, the best bars in the world, I mean, you go to New York City, you go to McSorley's that's been there for 150 years. Is McSorley's...
Huge draft list there.
Yeah. Is that great beer? No. Do they ever clean their draft lines? I don't think so.
They push with compressed air.
Yeah, I know. But, there's something about that place. Or some of those old English pubs that, there's something about them that's magic. And they pour a good pint. Sure, that's part of it. But that's just part of it.
And I do think that's something that not all, but the vast majority of brewery tap rooms just have never even really attempted, is to be actual hospitality
absolutely
companies. They're like, the vibe for most of them is like, you're welcome that you get to have our beer here. Like, not like, it's just, when I go somewhere else, like I'm not in Chicago, I don't hardly ever go to another brewery tap room. Like, even when families like, do you want to go check this brewery out? I'm like, not really. Like, let's just go to like your favorite bar. That's gonna be more fun. I'm gonna get to know more about this place that way than by going.
I was at Cantillon recently.
That's a good one.
Oh my God! I mean, this guy was so uninterested in having even a tiny bit of conversation with me.
The bartender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The brewer was actually really, really nice. I got a fantastic tour, and he was very passionate.
Yeah.
But this guy was just like, oh, another American.
Right.
Coming here to sell my beer on the second market, or I don't know. He wanted nothing to do with me. But, which, by the way, I took a trip to Belgium recently and kind of fell back in love with Belgian beers. Fantastic. Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah. Turns out they're still good.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right about a lot of brewery tap rooms. The seating is really uncomfortable. There are big kind of cavernous spaces that there's like little kids running around, dogs barking, and like they might have some pretzels on the table or something. It's not comfortable.
No. And
it's not someplace I want to really spend a lot of time.
Right. Like, I don't want to go to the place where they make my chips to eat lunch, like it's like the whole charm. Now, there is some charm to like, oh, that's where they make the stuff. I can see the tanks, but like, you shouldn't, I feel like this is now, I'm just saying personally what I've been thinking about a lot. The aesthetic of the place you make the beer shouldn't be the aesthetic of the place you're drinking the beer, right? You should be able to see that it's being made there, but it shouldn't be like also industrial, these high ceilings where you can't really have a conversation or you feel like you're, and
some are better than others.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's brew pubs, by the way, for people listening who aren't in Chicago, there's a difference in licensing here where you can be a brew pub, which is what I worked in the 90s. They were all brew pubs, and they were really restaurants. They were restaurants and bars that made beer. And sometimes the beer was good, sometimes it wasn't, sometimes food was good, sometimes it wasn't. Rarely were both good, I will admit that. Rarely did the brew pubs get both things right. But that is, and Michael and I had this beef years ago with the law changes where they started turning the production breweries into brew pubs. And, so I just want to note the difference there because there's some brew pubs out there, and I'll take Revolution. I haven't been in there in quite a long time, but they, to me, nailed both of those things where it was a really nice pub, really nice bar. You could sit down with your family, have a nice meal, and the beer was fantastic. And, there are examples where they get it all right, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, for the most part, these production breweries that suddenly were like, oh, my God, I can't sell any of this beer on the shelf. We've got to get, put together some 2x4s and get a jockey box, and we're going to start, we're going to be a bar now. And, you got a brewer back there who could care less about serving beer. He wants to make it. And suddenly, you end up with these.
Let me push back on that a little bit, and I'm pushing back even on what you're saying, Mike, and not what you guys are saying, because I think I've pretty famously, at least to people who listen to this podcast, have said the same thing. Yeah, like the corrugated steel bar,
reclaimed wood,
is with reclaimed wood and stuff like that, and the big echoey space,
wrought iron piping.
It's just not for me. But they still do. Where I'm going to push back is, it seems somebody likes them because they seem to be doing pretty well, or maybe that they don't need to do as well because the margins are there. I mean, maybe Shalal, you would be able to speak to that a little bit, because whenever I start talking about how cheap it is to make beer and this and that, I
think you leave out the part that like
yelling at me and stuff like that.
Well, you tend to just not represent the part that the person who makes the most money on a keg of beer is you. So, like, I sell it to you at one price, and then you make, all you guys make 6 plus X on that. So, but that's a different conversation.
But not with tap room, dude. Not when it's your tap room.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right, but so this is a conversation.
Then there's no comparison. There's no comparison to that. No, that is this conversation. That is. This
I think
you
underestimate how much it costs to make beer, but in those small quantities. But
Mike, I think we can all.
You're definitely making more money in the tap room.
Yes, that the person that made the beer selling it in their tap room paid less for that keg than I do when I sell it.
Absolutely. I would never argue otherwise.
And a tap room, a lot of tap rooms don't spend a lot of money on creature comforts that we do in our bars.
Right.
So, it costs a lot for us to decorate our place, to have comfortable furniture, to have a lot of servers on the floor.
For sure.
All that costs a lot of money. I think one of the reasons that the brewery tap rooms are so popular, though, is that they're extremely informal, and some people are looking for that. And compared to my bar, but even bars that do allow families with kids and dogs and all this, tap rooms have kind of just carved out that niche. Mm-hmm. You have 5 kids and 3 dogs, and you want to go drink beer. There's a place that wants you to come in and do that. And maybe even a bar that is family friendly is not that family friendly.
Sure. Yeah.
So they've got that.
Yeah, and they have lend a little bit to, I think, overall bar culture too, because I think tap rooms were, I mean, there'd always been games and board games and stuff like that at bars, but I think tap rooms made that even more of a popular thing that is now spread to that is one thing I have kind of seen go the other way a little bit. And I wasn't necessarily going at it from a profitability point, Mike, except maybe they don't need as many people through the door to be as profitable. That's kind of where I was going with that. But more so, I think we all shit on the ambiance of these places, but they do still seem popular with the end user. So maybe people don't care about that as much as we do, which is maybe a second question is like, is that kind of, well, I don't know. I mean,
are they doing as well
really
though?
Care about that as much?
I would question whether or not they're doing as well as they were, because they have stiff competition as well. There's a lot of them. I mean, we just had one that I really loved close here in Chicago, Low Res, and I don't think they'll be the last.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great brewery tap room. I thought it was really, I thought they did a great job. So I don't know. I don't know if they're doing quite as well as they used to. I think, as all concepts do, this is the most finicky business in the world, and Mike Roper is not the norm. Most people don't have a bar for 30, how many years, Mike?
Almost 32.
32 years. That's, the average lifespan in the restaurant business, I think, is 3 years. Maybe less. Maybe it's, 2 years. I don't know. As you know, I make these things up, Chris. But it's very short, and they come and go, and concepts come and go, because customers are very finicky, and they don't want to do what was cool 2 years ago. They want to do what's cool today, and so brewery tap rooms might be sort of suffering the same thing. Whereas think about it. When was the last time you traveled and was like, I got to know every brewery tap room in the city and go to them all? I used to do that.
Right.
It's been a long time since I did, and and those of us in that age where that was the popular thing to do, we don't drink like we used to,
right?
And these things they're fads, right. I mean, we're in a fad business, and you got to change, or you can be a venerable place like the Hopleaf and not change and do just fine.
Well, I also think I look at, because I do occasionally go into brewery tap rooms, not just around here, but like I said, I was just in at Notch in Salem, and they're compared to my demographic. So Hopleaf's demographic is 10 years older, at least, than most of the brewery tap rooms. Mm-hmm. So on a Wednesday night, there are more people over 40 than there are under 30 at Hopleaf. Most of I don't have a lot of...
Does that worry you, Michael?
It does in a way.
Does that worry you, Mike?
It does, but I actually think that the people who are in their 20s now and are going to brewery tap rooms all the time, they'll age out of them.
Right.
Because one of the things that when they get a little older, they're going to like more creature comforts. They're also going to demand that they have better food. Maybe their friends and their spouses will be people that like to go to a place with a really nice wine list, things that the tap rooms are never really going to offer. So I think that our older clientele is almost like a different animal than the people that are going to the brewery tap rooms. Certainly we share some clientele, but on average, if you look at who's sitting in my seats on weeknights especially, I would say that Saturday night is youth night at Hopleaf, but other than that, we have a lot of customers in their 50s. We have a lot of customers. I mean, I have regular customers in their 60s and 70s, people that come in 4 or 5 times a month. those people wouldn't be caught dead at a tap room.
Right. Yeah, and I think that lack of hospitality and the kind of anti-aesthetic we've been talking about that tap rooms are known for is going to come back and bite most of them, right? As these people that are going there, as you say, like kind of age out of it, where it's ones that don't actually connect with them on a way, anything deeper than just like, that's the place we can bring the dog and the kid. They're not going to have the loyalty that a place like Hopleaf has, or a place like Kaiser Tiger has, or Patty Long's had, or Max Nizzi has.
Patty Long's didn't have it. It no longer exists.
I mean, it was there for, 7 years?
What's that?
That's twice or whatever the statistic you made up. Right?
It was there 14 years.
14 years, yeah.
But it doesn't exist anymore, and it had to be rebranded to fit the changing tastes of the neighborhood and the changing tastes in general.
And you did that with food, I think.
We did that with food. And, Patty Long's also wasn't ever necessarily as dependent on the beer drinkers as some other beer bars, because we were actually better known for the bacon thing. And, again, that was a fad. I ran with it, and we beat a dead horse. But, at the end of the day, we had to reconcept, because that's just the kind of business we're in. Right. And if you don't change with the tastes of your neighborhood, and you lose that local clientele, you will not survive.
I would guess a lot of people that went to Patty Long's walked there, that lived in the neighborhood, because that was their neighborhood
absolutely
place.
We were
still is.
We were always a neighborhood place.
Me, Michael.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how I used to walk there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the neighborhood was.
How was your Tiger though?
Well, Kaiser Tiger has never really relied on the beer. It's a big establishment that does. We have the giant beer garden. We have private event spaces. We have, it's a restaurant, a bar. It does a little bit of everything. It's in a very vibrant neighborhood that's growing and growing and growing. And it's by the United Center, so it does United Center business. It's near Union Park, so it does Pitchfork and Arc Festival and all these other things. So it's not. I'm not saying it's like, immune to fad culture. We Kaiser Tiger changes all the time, and I hate to admit it, but I don't even consider it a beer bar. It's that's what I was
going to ask you. Okay.
Yes, we take very good care of our beer. We take very good. We try to curate our list, to the best of our ability. But at the end of the day, our number one seller is Tito's and soda, and right. We're a Tito's and soda bar. And I will, I'll chase whatever they want to drink. I'm not concerned about, necessarily the, holding on to this one certain concept and never letting go. Kaiser Tiger will always evolve, and it always has. And it's there every summer when you go out in that beer garden, there's something new, something we've built, something, some new idea we have that we're trying out. And whether it's bocce or curling or building a bar back there, putting the roof up back there, putting, we're just always trying to do something to get the asses in the seats. That's the key to this business. You got to get the asses in the seats. And, I'm not sticking to some paradigm that will put me under. I'm just never going to do that.
Mm-hmm. We've talked a lot about tap rooms versus beer bars, I guess. I have questions for the brewers and brewery owners and brewery salespeople that listen to this show. Is what can breweries do to be good partners to you guys as the place that a lot of their beer gets sold through? Like, what's the best practices for someone coming in to sell you some beer or to be selling you beer? What do you like to see?
I mean, I of course, first of all, I want the beer that they offer me to be really great beer. But there are some practices that they can do to make me more friendly to having them. And if you have a tap room and you lowball your prices so that they're so low that I could never compete with that, I'm not going to carry your beer. If you have all the best beers that you make are taproom exclusives, you never offer those beers to me, then I probably
I
am
hate
not.
that.
I'm not going to carry your beer. I also, at a certain point, when a brewery sells other people's beer, they sell wine, they sell cocktails, they sell food, they have table service, they compete with me in every single way. At that point, I'm not going to subsidize my competition. So if you start competing with me across the board, then just as I am not going to carry pizza from Kalo down the street, I have a kitchen. I'm not going to carry your beer when you compete with me in every way. But there are definitely some breweries that go out of their way to help me. There's some breweries like Dovetail actually launched some of their beers at my bar a week before they made them available at their tap room. So I think that's really cool. You're launching it. All the employees came. They made a big deal. They promoted it on their social media that, you want to drink this beer ahead of everywhere else. You got to go to the Hopleaf to do it. That is going to build loyalty. But if you just, you send a sales guy and he drops a 4-pack and then walks out the door, and it's like, give this to the owner and see if he likes it. It's like, that's not going to win my heart. And then once we do decide to carry your beer, I think that you have to do some things to keep us interested and not be more of a competitor. Be a true partner. Help us out. Help us sell your beer. That's the breweries that I have the longest relationships with that are local. All have been good partners. And then there's other ones that either have gone by the wayside, I don't carry them anymore, or I never carried them because I didn't see them as good partners.
Yeah, I'm 100% with Michael on all that. Chris, I'm wondering what it takes to get a beer on at Beer Temple. What are you looking for?
I think that there are a few things. First of all, Stephen Freshmack does the best at the Beer Temple. I have some input on that, but we're looking for. I'm guessing. My guess it's kind of a modified version of what both of you guys are doing. We're looking for certain styles, and we don't want to have a completely stagnant list. We have a few that are pretty stable, but within that, we want kind of exceptional versions of it. And then I think Steven knows that there's certain brewers that I really like, and then he'll feature those, and that there's some that he kind of takes a liking to, and he puts them on. So I do think it is people coming in, spending time, putting in the reps, so to speak, and sitting down and dropping off the beers and tasting them with people, spending some time with us, and not just dropping the 4-pack and going. That said, we drink those beers. I mean, they're just lined up in the back of the bar. They get dropped off on Tuesdays, usually. So guys are done. You'll see them literally sitting behind the tap, just like 7-8 cans, and they get tasted. We put probably as much thought into them as the person dropping them off put into it. Does that mean that they can't get on draft? Yeah, they probably can. But if you're in here all the time, and this goes local or not local, I do think relationships mean a lot. So what does it take? I guess I don't know. I mean, I think we all have our favorites. And then outside of that, it's have really good product. It's a combination of having really good product and really push your stuff. And it's a balance between those two things. If you're really pushing your stuff and it's pretty good, you'll probably have your beer on sometimes. Am I going to say that every beer that we have on is the best available version of that style at all times? I wish I could say it was, but I got to be honest, that's not always the case. personally. And that's the other thing is there's beers that I don't necessarily want on there for me personally to drink, but I have to think about what other people want. I would never put a milkshake IPA on, but you know what? We sell them, people drink them, they want them, so we have to think about that. Yeah. That said, I'm drinking beer pretty much all day today, so my answers are a little bit more incoherent and rambling usual, I think. So
I'm not. I don't notice a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about as lucid as
good.
always.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot tougher to get online at Kaiser Tiger now. I will say that we're not rotating as much. I'll be honest. Like, it was so freeing not meeting all these reps when COVID happened. Like, it really. I was like, oh my god, you don't actually have to spend 2 hours like meeting with everybody, and you can still order beer, and it can still be really good beer. And so it took me a while to get back into even talking to any reps. I still don't talk to many. And, I do have a beer buyer, Nick, who meets with some, but he gives them a, 4-hour window on Mondays. And if they come in any other day, they're not getting a looky-loo. So I know there's so much good beer out there. I'm not like chasing anything anymore. I'm not worried about the newest thing. In fact, the newest thing sells the worst for me. So if it's the newest thing, it has to really blow my socks off to get on, It's, it's harder. And like Mike said, I like to have brewery partners who I know have my best interests in mind. And those guys also want me to build their brand with them. So if I'm constantly rotating them out, or if I'm even changing what I have on tap from them, from one beer to another, sometimes that'll have a blip in their sales. And, that doesn't help them. It doesn't help me. So if I'm going to be a partner with them, I have to buy in on their brand as well. And back in the day, I freely admit, I was flipping around everything. I wasn't helping anyone, really, I don't think. I was just putting on, 20 different beers a week. 30.
That was
it was
the whole industry then too.
Yeah,
right?
it
that
was.
Breweries
It was
were doing that more.
Yep,
like the rotation.
It's what people wanted, I guess. I don't. We're all caught up. All these beers were coming out, and I thought I was helping the industry by showcasing new things every freaking day, and now I'm like, that didn't help the industry necessarily.
Sure.
And it didn't get me pouring the best beer possible. And also my staff. I want my staff to have 6 or 8 regular beers that they know back and forwards. And when they're trying to pair a customer with a beer, they have an arsenal. If I'm changing everything every day, and we're a big place, and we have a lot of staff, and sometimes they show up late, so you can't even tell them what the new beers are. But sometimes you just don't have time to go through every single change with them. And if they have a core, they always know that's going to be on there. It makes their job easier, and I think it's beneficial to the customer at the end of the day. When I have a beer, I know how it's supposed to taste. I know I'm ordering it regularly. I know how old it is. I know, exactly how it's supposed to be served, and my staff does too. And that is just good for beer.
I think it's ultimately better for the breweries too to not be making a million different things all of the time. You get really good at being a brewery by making the same thing.
Then stop doing
regularly.
it. It's pretty easy. Stop doing it.
I make one beer.
All the brewers listening right now, stop. Quit complaining about it and just stop doing it.
I make one beer a month. I'm not the problem.
Well,
I will say, Pat, or go on, Michael. So.
There's a few things that we have on all the time, and there's multiple reasons for that. Me and Rob Todd are really good friends. We've been friends for a long time. I'm always going to have an Allagash beer on tap. And, that's going to be in addition to Allagash White, which has had an ironclad line. I still sell. I have 62 beers on tap. I sell 1 or 2 half barrels of Allagash White every single week. Let's go. So, and it's a really good product. My people love it. But we make room for Curio. We make room for some of their other great beers. And there's a few other things. I sell an awful lot of Firestone Walker Pivo pills. I mean, why would I take it off? So there are some things that I don't rotate. There are some breweries that I'm very fond of, who I've been fond of for sometimes decades, and so they're not in rotation. So what's left? There's plenty of lines. I mean, we actually print a new draft menu at least 5 days a week, often 6 or 7. We print 250 copies of it. For many years, up until very recently, my wife formatted it every single day.
It's a lot of toner.
We go through a lot of toner. We lease a printing machine, and they've torn down whole forests in Wisconsin for printer paper for us. But I do think that while I think that there's a really interesting balance between people who feel comfortable that there's some things that are always on tap, and people who always want to see something new, and that. I think it's 50% of my customers want the same beer every time they come to Hopleaf, and 50% want a different beer every time they walk in the door.
You think it's more? Right. There's more rotation here.
I think. Go. Sorry, I'm delayed.
Go ahead, Blair. You probably had something more interesting to say than my question was.
No, I thought it was interesting what Pat was saying about how to help the industry. We are still on the rotation side of things. We're not ripping through with just willy-nilly where, new, I want to kind of go. We have our certain kind of brewery we choose from. And I would say for us, like Michael, you were saying that you're like, catering to 50% who want the same thing every time, 50% who always want something new. I would say we're maybe 70-30, and we maybe have 50% of a stable of breweries, and then 50% where we'll kind of sprinkle in new stuff. And I think these are just the differences of the types of bars that we are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a different clientele, I think, at all three places.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm guessing that probably even more than at Hopleaf. I think at Hopleaf, they look at the list and then they order, and they may often ask what the server thinks or what the bartender thinks. But at the Beer Temple, it's probably 3 or 4 out of 5 times that they get asked, what do you think? What's new? And that's kind of part of what it is. I mean, I do it all the time. I know you do it as well. You sit there and you're like, what's on? What's good? What's tasting good? Mm-hmm. That's just kind of part of what we do. And people like that interaction, and they like there's new stuff on, and they like to see, familiar things that they see maybe twice a year. That gets people really excited when they know it, and they know it's going to kind of come and go, but it isn't necessarily maybe artificial. It's like, okay, this is Terrace Bulba. It's in, we get it 2 or 3 times a year. If it's on right now, get it while the getting's good. And that kind of gets them excited. So
yeah, if my staff's not behind a beer, it's not moving. I mean, that's for sure.
Right.
I can love a beer and be like, I'm going to sneak this thing on and, try to get the staff behind it. But if like 1 or 2 of them be like, oh, I don't like it. And then it spreads through the staff, and then that cake's there forever.
Right. I got to mention what happened, when the first announcement was made that, Anchor Brewing's going out of national distribution. And then 10 days later that, we're closing the brewery. So we have almost always carried an Anchor product. I have an Anchor Neon still in my window. And more often than not, it was not steam. It was actually Anchor Porter has been a huge beer for me. But, we, between Porter, Liberty Ale, and steam, we got 12 half barrels, and we sold all of them in 2 weeks.
I was one of the people that came and drank a lot of them from you.
Now, all these people that said, oh my God, it's my favorite beer, or it's such a terrible thing, all these people who hadn't ordered one in 10 years said that. But we just blew through it. Suddenly, they became like the number 1, number 2, number 3 beer that we had, and then it went away. And that just shows, how the press and all this kind of stuff can influence suddenly, I saw people coming in who I hadn't seen in ages just because they felt, I got to go there. I haven't been there in since COVID. But I'm gonna.
Did you advertise that you were putting it on? Did you say, "Hey, we're bringing in this"?
I did. I did on all of our social media, and people went nuts. And a lot of beer industry people came in, and the Liberty Ale just blew through. I only had 2 barrels of that. I had 3 barrels of porter, and then all the rest was steam. And it was really fresh because there was a load in transit when the announcement was made.
Oh, wow.
So that beer was super, super fresh. And back in our storage building in the back, I had cases and cases of Anchor glassware. I said, I'm going to get rid of this because I've just taken up space.
Yeah.
So I gave it all away. And, that was just a kind of a freak occurrence that everybody's favorite beer that they never ordered.
Can I ask, and again, Mike, sorry because I can't see you. I don't know what question you're trying to get to. I want to talk a little bit about just the timing in beer, in bars generally, with things closing earlier or slowing down earlier. I think it's our decisions to stay open earlier or later. I'm curious where you guys are at with that right now, and where you think it's going, and what you think it means for bar culture in the near future, anyway, or medium future. But where are you guys at with that, with your closing and your later night crowd?
Yeah, late night business is non-existent. It's a combination, though. I don't know if it's necessarily just people not wanting to be out. I mean, obviously there was a COVID effect there where, we were forced to close at, I don't even remember all the rules anymore. I think at one point we closed at 9 and then they gave us 10 and whatever. People do go out earlier now. We're busier earlier. But there's a lot of reasons places aren't open late and people aren't out anymore, and that's still has to do with the labor shortage. And a lot of places aren't open 7 days a week anymore. A lot of places aren't going to be open till 2 anymore. They're late. Our staff is stretched thin. So we're having people come in earlier. They can't stay later. Try to get. Chicago was such a late night city. We were one of the latest in the, as far as big cities go, we were one of the latest. We had 5 a.m. bars on Saturday. I mean, I don't think you can go to a bar in New York at 5 a.m. on a Saturday, Everything happened late in this city, and you could get food from so many fantastic places at 4 in the morning in Chicago. Try to eat after 10 o'clock now. You can't
9
get,
o'clock.
Yeah, you can't get anything in this city.
So hard.
Yeah, if you didn't feed your family before 9 and you think you're going to order something in, forget it. Like there's nothing open anymore. So, that's where it still stands right now. I think it's still a labor thing. I think if we had the people, we could. I think there's people that want to go out later. I think there could be a shift there, but as of right now, like if you're open past midnight, you're probably not doing much.
I have the staff to stay open late, but I don't have the customers for it. And look at the Green Mill doesn't even stay open. They have a 4 o'clock license. They're still paying for it. They close at 1, and they would like to stay open later.
Wow.
I would like to stay open later. I have staff because I didn't serve food late. I only need like 3 or 4 people to stay open late. But man, the streets just empty out.
Yeah.
And I have friends that live and have businesses in New York, and they say people are making dinner reservations at 5 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock in Manhattan, the tumbleweeds are blowing down the street.
Yeah.
I think that
And people aren't coming home from work anymore. They're
No.
working from home.
Right.
So they're shutting that laptop at
That's
4
what it is. I think
o'clock.
that's what it is.
Yeah, and they're in my bar at 4:30, which, usually there was no one there at 4:30.
A lot of people actually who don't have a time constraint about working from home, like say, well, I actually work better from 6 to 11 o'clock at night than I do at 9 to 5, and so they're able to. They're completely free of the constraints of the 9 to 5 world. But I think one of the biggest reasons that thing has changed is that during the pandemic, they accelerated an existing trend and made their apartments so damn comfortable with so many entertainment options that they can't wait to go home.
Right.
Watch any movie ever made in the history of cinema, watch yesterday's Cub game, play games. You got a bowl of gummies on the table. You got food getting delivered. People we don't just compete with other bars and restaurants. We compete with their couch.
Yeah.
When I was 28 years old, on a Wednesday night, you couldn't get me out of a bar until somebody was like throwing me out the door because my apartment was so bleak. There was just nothing to do there. There's a light bulb hanging from my kitchen table, and there was nothing to do. I had a black and white TV with 3 channels.
Right.
So now there's just so much to do that they don't mind staying home and they don't mind going home. We do better during the day than we ever did before. And in dollars, this year will be the best year since 2014 for us. But, we've raised prices since then. So we're serving probably 1/3 fewer people. We miss those late night people. I would love to stay open late, but hardly any of the other bars near me stay open late. We also used to get an industry rush from the bars and restaurants downtown that closed at midnight. Well, now those bars are closing at 9, so the industry rush is much early as well.
Right. And remember, I hate to bring this up, but one of the reasons people used to be out late at night was because they were on the prowl, They were trying to hook up. And I don't think that's how they do it anymore,
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's all done on their phone, right? If they're, you don't even approach people in a bar anymore if you are trying, you guys tell me. I've been married a long time. Mike, let us know how it goes down. Come on.
I mean, it's on the phone. I think that
I don't know.
Honestly, there's so. This is a different topic. There's so much risk in hitting on people, like that. The way that culture has gone with.
Yeah, I don't think it happens like that
consent,
anymore.
which is probably for the best, or it's definitely for the best. But it just doesn't. It means that you're not out at the bars to do that anymore.
Right.
So.
And that's been going on for a long time. And I've ranted on this podcast before about the end of bar culture. I mean, it's hyperbole. It'll never. Bar culture will just change. But bar culture, as we knew it, was, I think, in my opinion, destroyed by the smartphone. When you no longer had to meet up with your friends to find out what was going on. All of that is on their social media. You know what they had for lunch, for crying out loud. All their inner thoughts because they're expressing them on your phone. And the other things we went to the bar for, like meeting people and blah blah blah. All that's done on your phone. It's all on your phone.
General stimulation, like you were talking about having one light bulb and a black and white TV. Like now, it's like they've literally engineered things that we have in our pocket so that we are just constantly stimulated by them.
The bar now has to offer an experience, and we do that. But that's what you have to do to get the asses in the seats again.
Right.
You have to. It's no longer just people meeting people. It's people going out for experiences. Well, it's something that they can take a picture of and put on social media, or something they can say, "Hey, I did this at this place," and
I ate the thing that was viral or whatever.
Yeah.
We don't have television sets. We have no screens in our place, but that whole thing has been sort of torpedoed by the fact that people have their phones. They can watch. They can actually watch the game on their phone. They're sitting there watching some cat videos, and all that along with the sort of isolation that happened during the pandemic has made people, like they don't do what I used to do. When I went to a bar if I saw a stool between two people, or like some stools at the end of the bar where there was nobody, I wanted to sit between the two people.
Yeah.
Now people choose to sit where there's nobody around them. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be around strangers. They don't ride the bus anymore. They don't take the train. They don't, they go to this. If they go to the supermarket at all, they go to the, the self-checkout. I mean, like they've dehumanized everything in your life. And the tavern is the antithesis of that. It's supposed to be convivial. You meet new people. You get into conversations with people that don't necessarily agree with you. And all that is kind of not where things are these days. And it's too bad. I mean, I think some of it will come back. I don't know about late nights. I have a feeling that people going out at 1 o'clock in the morning to have a few beers, I don't know if that's coming back.
I think
I did it last week, Mike. I'm trying to keep it alive.
Good.
Yes, it's been a long time.
I accidentally did it yesterday, but I think also there's those things combined with generally more awareness and care of health.
Absolutely.
Right? Where you are now so much more acutely aware of how bad of a decision it is for your body, both sleep-wise, alcohol intake, to be out drinking at 1 a.m. Doesn't stop me, obviously, but I mean,
that might be age. I don't think 25-years care.
I think they care more.
I think they do now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's why they're drinking some of the weird stuff they're drinking. They think it's healthier.
Yeah.
Even if it's wrong.
I can't tell how many people
popping pills is healthy. I'm gonna do some pills and whatever.
I don't really want to.
It doesn't make them fat. I think you can't tell Instagram that it's not healthy. I think when you do some of the other.
I don't know how much it affects our places, but I know some places in some neighborhoods are definitely affected by the fact that some people don't want to be in those neighborhoods at night because there is an illusion, true or not, that these neighborhoods have crime issues.
Right.
And it's because it's splashed in front of us all the time, whether it's real or not.
Right.
There is fear, and it definitely affects the suburban customer. There are suburbanites now who do not come into the city for anything.
When I do deliveries out of the city, and most times I don't get into conversations like this with anyone, but people talking about things, how dangerous downtown is, and it's like, have you been there though? Like have you been to any part of the city? Because it's not that way. I don't know. It's crazy what the perception of Chicago is versus what my experience.
Yeah, I mean that's for a different show maybe, but they.
Definitely a different show.
Targeted. That's like a nationally targeted thing.
Yeah.
Chicago targeted for probably the better part of, 5 years.
Right.
Like day in, day out.
Yeah.
On national outlets. And that has an effect on everybody, I think, now. But yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of reasons why bar culture is changing and is, diminishing sounds like a tough word, especially since, like you were saying, Michael, this is going to be your best year into a decade. But it's definitely different, and it seems like maybe aging a little bit. Just an interesting time to see how stuff is going outside of beer bars, but just overall. I mean, Pat, and I know we're getting long on time here, but you have a younger crowd that goes to Kaiser Tiger, don't you? Or am I wrong with that?
It's West Loop, so it skews a little younger.
Yeah,
and I'm talking to.
Still, they're not out late, huh?
No, they're not.
Well, I wish Mike Miller had made it today, because I remember talking to him recently about it, and he's saying, not necessarily about the late night stuff, but about ages, that he's like, most of the people in my bar, and maybe it's because of its proximity to DePaul, but they're young 20-something women. And maybe it has something to do with DePaul, or that it's the bar that it is, but I would love to know why he thinks that is. But
Delilah's is a unicorn.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's a unicorn.
It's a wonderful place.
Yeah.
I think they just realize cool that place isn't it? They've never been, and I mean this literally. I mean, I think they go into a place like that and they realize, holy shit, I've never been like this. This place is so much cooler than
I did talk to him about it for a little bit,
and I want to be here.
And he said it's like one of the last remaining bars from what he kind of thought of as like the arty rocker bars that were in Chicago, like these kind of rebellious spirit art, and
people go to see the different DJs there,
right? Yeah.
And then then he has this other clientele that go there because he has more whiskey than anybody anywhere.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's a unique place.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's a good place to kind of bring our conversation about beer bars and the people who love to run them to an end. Is there anything you guys would like to add before we wrap up? Where can they find your remind of your establishments and where they can?
Kaiser Tiger, 1415 West Randolph, Chicago, in the West Loop neighborhood. And Max and Izzy's, the old Patty Long's, is now a wonderful New York-style pizza place at 1028 West Diversey. We still have very nice beers on tap, but we sell more wine and cocktails.
And Hopleaf is 5148 North Clark, and we are open 7 days a week. We open at noon till at least 11 during the week and midnight on the weekends. If you get a bunch of people and you want to stay later, we'll stay open. Let's start a trend.
And Chris, if someone wants to send us a handwritten letter, where should they send it to?
Yes, 3173 North Elston. That's in Chicago. So yeah,
and
you haven't gotten a letter. We haven't gotten a handwritten letter in
in a while.
I think it's been a month. It's been a month or two since we've gotten a handwritten letter. So.
And you're promising that Beer Temple will be open till 2 a.m. every day.
But by the way, what time's last call here? Because I haven't had a beer in a little while.
Every day.
Last call is 3 a.m.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Cool.
You guys have a couple hours. But I want to thank Pat and Michael for coming on. I appreciate it. I wish I could have been there. Not too much. I'm glad to be where I am as well. But thanks guys. Respect both of you very much. I think you know that. So thanks for coming on.
I second that.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.